Re'ei onochi nosin lifnechem hayom brocha uklala. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to the Jewish people, you shouldn't think that all the halachas of the Torah, the do's and the don'ts, are simply a code of conduct. It's actually a mafteach. It's a key to leading a life of bracha, a blessed life, rather than a life of klala, a life of meaningless and purposelessness. That is really the underlying message of Moshe Rabbeinu his whole life. But the curious thing here is the use of the word re'eh. Re'eh implies there's something to see. He's inviting Klal Yisrael to have a visual experience of some sort. I want you to see something. But in actual fact, throughout the whole Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu never uses the word re'eh. He focuses on the word shema. That in actual fact, the message that he's giving to Klal Yisrael is available to us through shemiah, through hearing and understanding, not through seeing. In fact, in Voice Chanan, in chapter 4, a couple of weeks ago, the Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu emphasizes, Kilo re'isem kol temunah, b'yom ha'madaten b'chorev, on the day that you stood at Har Sinai, there was no temunah. There was no visual experience. Right? There was nothing to see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by definition, is not a power and an existence which is susceptible to vision. You can't see anything. And in fact, seeing a tmuna, seeing a visible icon or image, is the topic of the second commandment. Seeing an image is associated with paganism, right? As soon as you see something, and that's the object of your worship, then you're already into Avodah Zarah. The whole essence of monotheism of the Torah is that actually HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not visible through the senses. He's only visible through the mind's eye, through the understanding that we have, the understanding of our brain and of our neshama guides us to a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he's not visible. If God is not visible and the ruchnius in this world is not visible, what is it actually that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying by saying the word re'eh, by saying see? I want you to see something. So this is a question which has got several very interesting answers, and time allowing, I'd like to introduce you to really 4 different ways of looking at this. The first one is to realize that actually if you look at the next couple of psukim, you will see that the first thing Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them is that when you get into Eretz Yisrael, I want you to set up the whole experience which is described in Parshas Kisavai of Har Gerizim and Har Eval. That half the nation goes up on one mountain, half on the other mountain, and there are brachos and klalos. So the first thing Moshe Rabbeinu, the pshat level here is that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, yes, the idea that the mitzvahs bring us a life, a gebenchte life, a life of brachos, we have to make it somehow into a visual experience, and that will happen once on Har Gerizim and Har Eval, and that's what he's saying here. How are you going to make it visual? Har Gerizim and Har Eval, to make it into something that everybody can see and make it into a visually memorable experience. That's the pshat in the Re'eh. That's one level of pshat. In the Baal HaTurim, the Baal HaTurim brings out a very interesting aspect of the pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, Re'ei onochi, watch me, look at me, and take guidance from the way I live and the way I behave and my ideas and my thoughts. And really what he's saying here is, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving also a hint to Yeshua and all future leaders of the Jewish people that Klal Yisrael are led by dugma ishit, by role models. And therefore the importance of having a positive role model, the importance of being in the company of people who live a life of chachma, a life of Torah and good midas and chesed, and not egoistic, materialistic lives. If you see people who are living in that good life, that will have an impression on you. And therefore the way to read the pasuk, says the Baal HaTurim, is Re'ei onochi, look at me. Look at me. And he quotes a pasuk, a famous pasuk from Shoftim chapter 4 of Gidon, that Gidon is leading his small armed force. He had 32,000 volunteers, but he selected 300 out of them, and with these 300 he goes into battle against the Pelishtim, and he doesn't have time to train them. And he says, look, I'm going to give you a shofar, I'm going to give you a earthenware jug with a burning torch in it, and we're all going to go in the middle of the night, and mimeni tiru v'chein tasu, watch me and do what I do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow the shofar, I'm going to smash the jug, and suddenly the whole place will light up from the fire that is hidden inside this jug, and that will create the necessary shock effect, which will start us off in the victory against the Plishtim, and that's what happens. But he uses these magic words: Mimeni tiru, watch me, v'chein ta'asu, and do what I do. And this remained a real idiom, a really powerful thought for personal leadership. And in fact, in Tzahal, in the Israeli army, this is the posuk. These are the 4 words which are written over the entrance to the Beit HaSefer of Ktsinim, of the training force for officers in the army that have to lead by example. Mimeni tiru v'chein ta'asu is the motto of the Israeli officers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should look after them and protect them. Akol Ponim, says the Baraturin, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu meant. Re'ei Anochi, watch me and do what I do. And that is really a very interesting insight into it. That idea actually is developed a little bit more in the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, who says that if somebody comes and tells you that a life of ruchnius, of spiritual values and avodas Hashem is a blessing, and a life of materialism is a curse, you sometimes wonder, maybe he's saying this because he's never seen proper materialism. He's never driven in a Rolls Royce. He's never been in a super luxury yacht or hotel or whatever it is. He's never experienced great Gashmias, and that's why he's saying the Ruchnis is better. But maybe were he to experience really a wonderful experiences of fabulous material experiences, he wouldn't say that. So says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh here something very beautiful. He says, Ra'ei Onochi, look at me. I grew up in the house of Paro. There was no more fabulous wealth and self-indulgence and extreme materialism than there was in the house of Paro. So I know exactly what the height of Gashmias, the height of material enjoyment has to offer. And also, I was on Har Sinai, Aboim Yom, so I've also experienced the height of a spiritual experience, and therefore, Re'ei Onochi, says Orach Chaim HaKadosh, look at me, and I'm qualified to tell you that I've seen both extremes, and I can tell you that a spiritual life is a blessed life, and a life of materialism and of glitter is something which is fake and is only going to lead you in the wrong direction. In general, the Torah speaks about sight as being something which is more likely to lead you in the wrong direction, starting from the very beginning. When with the Chet of Adam and Chava speaks about Chava looking at the Eitz Hadas Tovara, and she sees Ki ta'avo hi le'einayim. She was irresistibly attracted by the vision. There was something about the Eitz Hadas that was ta'ava le'einayim. Right? We today have a whole multi-billion-dollar industry of advertising, trying to make anything, which even the things you absolutely do not need, make them look irresistibly attractive. But this is, the einayim can mislead you. So the eyes generally in the Torah are referred to as the faculty that we have, which of course is vital for life, but can easily mislead a person. And therefore, when we say the Shema, we're saying, no, our real emunah is not based on anything we can see. We cover our eyes to indicate it's not based on anything visual. It's based only on the Shema Yisrael, what we've heard and what we've understood. So here you have a very interesting insights into the Re'ei Onochi of Moshe Rabbeinu. He's telling Klal Yisrael that there is something to see here. Watch me. Right? Interestingly, Parshas Re'ei also ends with Re'iyah. The last psukim of Parshas Re'ei deal with Shalosh Polim Bashana Yero'eh Kol Zechurchas Panei Hashem. Right, to be able to go to the Har HaBayis, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos, Aliyah L'Regel is called Mitzvahs Re'iyah, and the korban you bring is a korban Re'iyah. So actually turning our spiritual life into a visual experience was something that we had at the time of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, and B'mheir V'yomeinu, we should be zeicher to see Ki Ayin Ba'ayin Yireh B'shuv Hashem Tzion. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should restore to us that wonderful visual experience to bring us closer to our Avodas Hashem. Amen.